Today on Erix Reviews, we're taking a look at The Lost World, Jurassic Park, the blockbuster's second installment in the original film trilogy initiated by Steven Spielberg, in which mathematician Ian Malcolm must venture into a second Central American island off the coast of Costa Rica to aid a reconnaissance team headed by his paleontologist girlfriend, and much dinosaur-related carnage ensues. Jeff Goldblum returns in his scene-stealing role from the first film, now having graduated to the lead, and Richard Attenborough also returns, though ever so briefly. Weirdly, the two kids also return. They're on screen for about 71 seconds and each get a line apiece. New to the cast, Julianne Moore, Arliss Howard, Pete Postlethwaite, Vince Vaughn, Peter Stormare, Richard Schiff, and Vanessa Lee Chester. The film was once again directed by Steven Spielberg. Let's take a look. If the first Jurassic Park was Spielberg's attempt to recapture the blockbuster magic of Jaws, then I guess this sequel is an earnest and well-meaning attempt to do his own version of Jaws 2, as he famously felt they screwed it up the last time, and so he figured, if I do it, at least it won't get screwed up, or if it does, I'll only have myself to blame. And well, in all fairness, he both has a valid point and is wrong at the same time, but whatever the case, what he ends up with is very much the Jaws 2 of the Jurassic Park series. And what that amounts to is, just because Spielberg himself made it doesn't really mean shit, which is not, of course, to imply that this is bad. No, it isn't. It's actually pretty good. And in all fairness, Jaws 2 wasn't that bad either, so this is just about as good as Jaws 2. And I'm going to keep right on with the Jaws 2 comparisons. You know why? Not to rub anything in Spielberg's face. No, I will continue with them because they are apt. This has all the virtues of Jaws 2, more action and big special effects set pieces than the first one. And it has all the flaws of Jaws 2. Despite all that, it just isn't as compelling as the first one, and is basically just a big dead dog whenever it isn't focusing on its action-adventure aspects. Thankfully, that isn't often, because it's a movie that runs at about 2 hours and 10 minutes with credits, and I would have to say that about 80% of that time is taken up by dinosaurs and thriller set pieces involving dinosaurs, and that means it's basically the movie that everybody came to see. And that's fine. You can't recapture the sense of wonder. That's gone. So what do? You replace it with mayhem. You replace it with violence and cruelty and as much blood and guts showmanship as a PG-13 rating will allow. And that means the film is almost never boring. It's mechanical, but rarely dull, and it's all put together very well. It's a slick, 90s adventure film. Though even as the effects are excellent and plentiful, and even more impressive than they were the first time around, I have to say I miss the clean, crisp look of Dean Cundey's cinematography. Here replaced by Janusz Kaminski, a fine craftsman in his own right, but with a much darker, moodier palette that doesn't serve mainstream blockbuster filmmaking as well as Cundey does. And it dawns on me that Spielberg fell in love with Kaminski around this time and then never looked back. Has he ever worked with anyone else since? But anyway, that's neither here nor there, I guess. Does the film still basically work, despite the fact that it looks like a fucking bummer? Sure. And there are definitely some moments here that are as good as any set piece in any action-adventure spectacle of the last 25 years. Easy. The big one is, of course, that hair-raising bit of business involving a trailer truck hanging off a cliff. That is some wild stuff, but there are other things. It's definitely a kitchen sink kind of movie. It even allows itself to become an old-fashioned monster movie during the third act, with a T-Rex storming downtown San Diego. All of that is fun. I think what gets lost ultimately in the shuffle are the characters. These are all fine actors, just like the first time around. It's a bunch of great character actors being given centerpiece action-adventure roles. And just as it was the first time around, they are, of course, overshadowed by the special effects and action, and that's fine. That's just how it goes. Except, the first time around, you had the novelty, the sense of wonder, the fact you had never seen anything like this before. This time, you just have more of the same. Jeff Goldblum is definitely a great anchor to hang all this on. His jittery, eccentric personality, his delicious line deliveries, the fact David Koepp wrote some great dialogue for him, it's all there. And I would say that because of that, for the film's first hour, it's actually a lot of fun. I think the doldrums start setting in during the second half, when the dramatic focus starts to shift to secondary characters made up of a bunch of mercenary assholes farting around on the island on a dinosaur hunt. Even though these characters are played by Pete Postlethwaite and Peter Stormare and some others, they're just not very interesting. And so the only entertainment comes from watching dinosaurs pick them off one by one. And since you don't like them and you don't really care about them, there's no emotion. And does the movie even care about its characters? A couple of them just disappear inconsequentially from the movie. Not because they die, but because the story no longer has any use for them. So what does that tell you? Anyway, the film's pacing suffers greatly from its flabby midsection and lack of human interest in its characters. And then, yes, it recovers. For the aforementioned fun monster movie of a third act, and a reasonably satisfying finale. I guess overall the result is a watchable and entertaining film that serves its purpose for a rainy afternoon. But there's a reason why the first one is still considered a classic, and this one, well, isn't. Hey, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel and share the video. There's going to be some cool stuff coming to the channel, so you're going to want to keep track of it, and I hope you like all that stuff too. See ya.